In today's video, I wanted to go over the strongest SARMS tier list. Some of you may remember I did a tier list video just comparing all the SARMs, how I would rank them as far as like my favorite to least favorite, but I didn't necessarily go over what are the strongest or most anabolic ones. So we're gonna start at the 5th position, which is gonna be the weakest on the list, and then consecutively go down the line to the number 1 spot where we'll cover what is the strongest SARM on the market. Before the video goes any further, I am not a doctor. Do not do anything without your doctor's supervision. This video is all for informational and educational purposes only. If by chance you guys do need anything, check out the link in the description down below for your lab rats. So number 1 thing I want to state, there was a couple compounds in, I guess, the SARMs family that I left out. Some of them aren't necessarily SARMs, just because they're not anabolic, they're not hormonal, they're not going to influence your testosterone level. So those ones that we're going to leave out of this list would be MK677, Cardarine, GW501, 516, and SR9009. So now let's jump into that 5th spot, which is actually going to be a split right down the middle between LGD4033 and Ostarine MK2866. Another thing I want to state in this video, just because it's at the 5th position doesn't mean it doesn't, come with tremendous results for your lab rat, that you're not going to pack on a ton of lean muscle tissue, strength, change body composition, drop in body fat percentage. It's just, moving it down the list is what's going to be stronger. So sometimes being in that 5th position spot is actually going to be more of an advantage because there's less side effects, more studies, it's a healthier version, still being able to achieve crazy results. LGD and Ostarine have been around for a very long time, so there is a ton of documented studies, which is a huge perk to it. Lab rats will definitely increase an improvement in strength, body composition, drop in body fat, as we just kind of went over, improvement to bone density, healing of ligaments and tendons. Now let's jump into that number 4 spot, which is going to be claimed by none other than RAD140. RAD140 at the moment, just based on my experience and what I've seen in videos that are out there and people that are, sending me messages and talking to me, I know it's one of the most popular compounds that is out there at the moment, and for good reason. Ton of lean muscle tissue. It is very strong. Of course, it's suppressive like all the compounds we're talking about in this list, so PCT or post-cycle-therapy would be needed for your lab rat. In my opinion, RAD140 is almost like a Winstrol, just not necessarily as strong as Winstrol, but also a lot better for you. Winstrol comes with a lot of negative side effects, being a DHT compound. So, if you're prone to male pattern baldness, losing your hair, drying of your joints, super liver toxic. So orally, you can only take, Winstrol or Winnie so long before your body just starts to wreak havoc. Moving on to that number 3 spot is going to be S23. I have not experimented with S23 in a very long time. It's just too suppressive, like almost complete shutdown. And what that means is, let's say you're a natural lifter or a natural bodybuilder and you take your cycle of S23 for your lab rat, expect your testosterone levels when you come off of the cycle to be at like flat line. I'm talking so suppressed, so low. It's horrible to come back from. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, is it incredibly strong? Yes. Does it yield a ton of results? Yes. But once again, it just has so many negative drawbacks that's the reason I'm not a huge advocate for lab rats to take S23 or experiment with S23. Of course, everyone's going to be a little bit of trial and error, but from my lab rats experience, it worked phenomenal for contest prep, building lean muscle tissue, having vascularity, having that dry, grainy type of look that a lot of people kind of strive for, the aesthetic look. Just a lot of drawbacks, especially if you're not on like TRT, because PCT is even still going to be a difficult process with S23 just because of how severe that shutdown is. Moving on to the number 2 spot, we have got LGD3303. So not to be confused with LGD4033, this is the 3303. Now, I used this one a couple of times. Incredibly strong, ton of results, and I believe Russo also says the same thing about 3303. When I would start lifting, when you're getting the pump and then the pump starts to get painful, so you're almost forced to stop your set, but normally that happens, like 10 to 15, maybe even like 10 to 20 reps, and you're like deep in your set. Now with LGD 3303, I'm not even joking, 2 reps into my set, and I would be at a painful pump, which, sounds good on paper. You're like, oh, okay, like you'll be able to get more out of your workouts. But the problem is actually hindering my workouts because I wasn't able to break down the muscle enough with getting my normal like 8 to 12 reps. Or let's say like if I was going for 15 reps and I had to tap out at 2 to 4, just because of how painful the pump was and I couldn't push through that pain threshold. So the pumps were so long lasting. Like when I'd be deadlifting, my lower back pump would persist through my entire workout all the way until I went into my car, and it was so uncomfortable. I'd be sitting in my car and I would still have like a knotted, painful pump in my lower back. And for that reason, my lab rat couldn't continue to experiment with LGD 3303 from the couple of times, it was used. But I can say it is incredibly strong, ton of results, but that was a huge drawback. Now, once again, this is individual based. Some people might not experience that. Some people may experience it the same as my lab rat. Some people may experience it even more. Moving on to the number 1 spot, and one that is most slept on in the SARMS strongest family for sure, and I've made a couple of videos on it, and those of you that have DM'd me on the Half Wicked Labs Instagram page, which by the way is the page I answer every single DM, was YK11. For those of you that didn't know, YK11 is the most similar in chemical structure of the SARM family to that of an actual DHT compound. So when we're talking about DHT compounds, we're talking about Winstrol, Masteron, Anavar, all of the super popular like aesthetic compounds for lean gains, lean muscle tissue, drop in fat, vascularity, just having an overall beach body look. YK11, I'm saying, is like so similar, where like just the slightest change in the chemical structure and it's a full-blown DHT. It also has studies as being a myostatin inhibitor, which of course allows the body to get bigger and put on more muscle than it would have ever been able to, because the myostatin is what prohibits people from putting on too much muscle to where your body just doesn't want to be there. So when you have a myostatin inhibitor, it allows your body to break past that barrier, and YK11 not only has that property, but is also very similar, as we just talked about, to a DHT compound, so it's incredibly strong. With YK11, of course, it is suppressive. I would still say it's not even as suppressive yet as S23, which is on that 3rd spot, but YK11 definitely takes the king for being the strongest SARM, in my opinion. You guys may have experienced it. If there's any other ones that you guys want to throw into the list that maybe you think might outrank one or the other, or maybe should be swapped in and out, let me know in the comments down below. As you guys heard me mention, if you need anything for your lab rats, check out the link in the description down below. It'll have everything you need from not only blood work and testing, but all of your sourcing needs for your lab rat. Once again, I answer every single DM on the Half Wicked Labs Instagram page, so if you guys want to head over there, ask me a question about any of your lab rat cycles or anything, it just takes me a big amount of time just due to how many I get, but I will get back to you.